have a few different hearings today, but I typically schedule them on the hour and have different meeting links for each.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to give everyone checked in. It looks like we have Dean Richardson, the applicant owner on this project, here with us today. Welcome, Dean. And then we also have Kate Meehan from the planning department. Hi, Kate. I need to read through our hearing script unless, Mr. Richardson, are you expecting anyone else to join us here today?
I don't think so. Very friendly with all of my neighbors, and you have all their email addresses, so I'm gonna guess that they're just not interested in attending.
Yeah, we have sent paper notices out in the mail to all the neighboring property owners within a certain distance. I'm not positive we have their email addresses unless they have sent correspondence to us.
I submitted that with my packet.
Gotcha. Okay. Yes, that's right. I did not see that there, but go ahead. I'll make sure that I have that as we get going here. Before we get started, I need to read through our hearing script. This is just going to cover the procedure for the hearing, and then we'll begin. So this is the March 12th, 2025 session of the zoning hearing examiner docket. Again, my name is David Sturkey. I'm the zoning hearing examiner for the city. The case before us today is case number ZH20250013. That is 3628 Columbia Parkway. The purpose of this hearing is to allow applicants and any other parties to testify and to offer and refute evidence and testimony. This hearing will follow the rules found in the zoning code and the supplemental rules of the zoning hearing examiner. All testimony and evidence that an applicant or any other party wishes to offer must be presented at this hearing unless, of course, there have been some written correspondence submitted prior to this hearing. The hearing will proceed as follows. The applicant, the applicant's attorney, or the applicant's agent will first present the applicant's case. Mr. Richardson, for our purposes here today, that will be you. I'll give you an opportunity to tell me about the project, any background you think is important, what exactly it is you're requesting, the relief that you're requesting, the zoning relief that is, and then why you think the zoning relief is appropriate, and then anything else you'd like to tell me about the project. If we did have anyone here from the public, they would then have an opportunity to speak after the applicant had presented its case. I'll hear from the planning department and Ms. Meehan to provide any testimony in addition to her staff report. In the event that any party testifies or offers argument in opposition to this application, the applicant will have an opportunity to respond to those arguments that were offered in opposition. And then finally, the applicant will have an opportunity to make any closing statements. After all presentations have been made, I will close the hearing. Decisions may be expected within 2 weeks. Excuse me. All right, I may limit or exclude any testimony that I deem irrelevant or outside the scope of the application being considered. I may interrupt any speaker to ask questions or to make any comments. I may also refute, I'm sorry, I may interrupt any speaker to ask questions or to make any comments. In the event of any technical difficulties with the Zoom technology, I'll do my best to troubleshoot those issues on the fly. But to the extent there's some defect that prevents us from meaningfully going forward with this hearing, I may continue or postpone the hearing at my discretion. Okay, the last thing I need to do is just swear in all of our witnesses. If you intend on providing any testimony here today, making any comments, asking any questions, doing anything other than just strictly observing, then the zoning code requires that I swear you in. So I'm going to do that now collectively with each of you. So if you could raise your right hand, I'll need you to answer out loud. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you shall provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, Mr. Richardson, are you ready to proceed?
Sure.
Okay, the floor is yours.
Okay, so just to make sure it's clear, right? I've spoken to all of my surrounding neighbors. None of them have a problem with increasing the height of the fence. So I just want to make that clear. And also that we're going to follow we would follow the exact same footprint. So there's not going to be any change as far as the perimeter. I guess my reasons that I listed, first thing was, some light from the neighbors' lamps, particularly in the winter. It's not, maybe I listed that first. It's not the biggest issue. I mean, ultimately, I'm looking for some privacy. It's more about the safety issue. So when I talk about the west side of my property, if you're facing my house, it would be on the left where there's the catwalk or sidewalk. I guess before I go into that though, on the right-hand side of my house to the east is a house that's been abandoned for quite some time. They were slated to demo it, and now it's up for sale. Anyway, it's kind of an eyesore. So from that perspective, extra couple of feet kind of blocks out the neighbor's backyard, which is just, I don't know, overgrown. It's just kind of a mess. I'm not too, I have no idea what's going to happen to that house. I don't think anyone's even put an offer in on it yet. So from the safety perspective, if you look, it's all kind of tucked back in a wooded area. And the catwalk, I mean, anybody could just walk up to the fence. I know that Kate had said that, you know, she went back there personally, and there's a 6 to 8 foot hill from the catwalk up to my fence. And it's, you know, at night, it'd be very easy to kind of sneak in there. And there's a gate on that side. I keep it locked. But, you know, to scale a 6 foot fence for somebody that's determined would be pretty easy. You know, I can say it's very easy to get up there. My lawn company goes up there every fall with an aerator. So, I mean, if you're able to take an aerator and push it up that hill, I think anybody can just simply walk up there, get to the fence. I was requested that, you know, there have been some break-ins lately. We've got a Facebook group for the neighborhood, and everybody's pretty alert about things that happen. Some people have Ring devices, but I wasn't really able to go through that messenger thread to get any data. But I did go to the Insights Cincinnati, Ohio.gov reported crime website, and I sent that in an email. So in the last 4 years, there have been 77 Part 1 property incidents. And then from January 1st through February 23rd of this year, there have been 10. So I think it's legit. It's not just some crazy thing. You know, and again, just in having a conversation with Kate, she observed that the surrounding fences, you know, right around me are 6 feet or less, or some have no fence at all. And so approving an 8 foot fence, she wasn't inclined to do that. But I guess I would just say, like, with that kind of logic, you'll never have any adjustment if the basis is that the surrounding fences are, you know, there's nothing surrounding me that's 8 feet. So I travel frequently, you know, that leaves my 64-year-old wife at home alone. So for those reasons, I'm making the request. It's tucked back in there, and it's not like it's, you know, really all that visible, just because of the way it sits in there. So that's really, you know, my summary.
Okay.
And, you know, I know that Kate is not recommending it, but ultimately I think you're the decision maker, correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Great. Thank you for that testimony. I may have some questions, but I think I'll go ahead and hear from Kate first, if Kate wants to add anything here.
And I hope I didn't make Kate to sound like the bad guy or anything.
No.
That's not my
No,
intent.
no, no, no. This is, you know, this happens all the time. They have to make recommendations based on their analysis. And that's, you know, it's just
Okay.
how the business works here. Kate?
Right. And I yes, so thank you, David. Thank you, Dean. Yes. You know, for my staff report, I have to look at the zoning code, and you know, there are certain parameters and things I'm supposed to look at in terms of making a decision. And so I, you know, have to follow what's in the zoning code and some of the requirements in order to make a decision. And you know, that's how I arrived at it. You know, I did make a site visit on February 13th. I did walk along the sidewalk there. I did kind of observe, you know, the area. And I, you know, did note that the Mr. Richardson's fence is up a bit of a slope, as as compared to the neighbors whose fences are much closer to that sidewalk that runs there from Columbia Parkway to Woodbridge. So I did note, they had 6-foot tall fences. My, thought process is if, crime is or safety is a big issue through there, then those people, maybe would have a taller fence or would have been in to request a taller fence if there was a lot of crime or, people traversing that sidewalk that they had concerns about. Um, I noted they had the 6-foot tall fences. They are closer to that sidewalk. I would think if someone was interested in committing a crime, it would be much easier for them to jump over a fence there than to come up the slight incline and then try to scale the fence that is at your residence. So, and I also, just from walking around the neighborhood, I walked over to Woodbridge Place and, again, was looking at people's fences. I looked along Stanley, and I, for the most part, saw all compliant fences. I didn't see taller fences. Um, I mean, ideally, of course, someone would be in for a variance if they needed a taller fence as you are. But, sometimes certainly people don't follow the code and they'll put up a taller fence without going through proper channels. But I didn't observe that. I observed, compliant 4 to 6 foot tall fences. Um,
You didn't see any that were greater than 6?
I did not. Now, I didn't walk the entire, Columbia Tusculum neighborhood. I did see that the house next to you is vacant and boarded up. I did note that, and I do drive that way to go home on occasion, so I'm familiar with that neighborhood through there along Columbia Parkway. Um, but I just didn't see, um, anything that would cause me to, I guess, make a recommendation for that taller fence. And again, I don't know you know, s- um, what kind of crime, et cetera, might take place over there. Um, certainly you cited that, but, again, I have to kind of look at the zoning code and, what are the existing conditions, and what does the code permit? And I think, something I would recommend, again, if safety, is a concern, is that you could do like a 6-foot tall, like a stockade type fence, which has more of the pointed tops and is still 6 feet. And I would think that could serve as a deterrent. Also, I would think you could potentially do some landscaping, maybe around the outside of the fence that would make it less hospitable for someone who maybe would have bad intentions and think about trying to get into your yard or your home.
Anything else, Kate?
No, so those were my thoughts and, kind of the basis for my recommendation.
Okay. Thanks, Kate. Appreciate it.
Mm.
Mr. Richardson, I'll give you a chance to respond to some of her comments, but I also, as we get into that, a couple questions or maybe sort of comments of my own. As I go through this analysis, I need to sort of look at some of the factors that are in the code. In fact, I have to look at all the factors in the code. And one of those is special circumstances or conditions of this property that are unique to this property that make it different than you know other properties in the area and other properties in the city. And so could you tell me a little bit about more, I mean, why you think that this is unique, particularly with the crime? I mean, I don't know offhand if crime in Columbia Tusculum is particularly bad right now compared to other neighborhoods in the city. Um,
Yeah, I mean, all I can do is, quote those statistics, and that's, where somebody's actually reported it.
Mhm.
That being said, I think the only thing that really makes me a bit unique is that this house is 17 years old, something like that. The house to the right was built in 1865, and the other houses, my neighbors, were built anywhere between 1880s to 1920. So it does kind of stand out as a new house that, looks nicer than most. In that way, it's kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? It just stands out.
Okay, sure.
you know.
Okay.
This is
Um,
speculative, right? Who knows what's going to happen, if anything, but.
Sure. But if the standard I was relying on, or to meet that standard, if I was relying on nicer, newer house, and the level of crime that Columbia Tusculum sees, I think that would probably give almost, a very large percentage of homes throughout the city, the same right to, exceed the zoning code. So I'm thinking about, I think about precedent here a little bit too, like if that's what I'm relying on, then that grants an 8 foot tall fence for quite a few homes. So that's sort of, and I'm just mentioning that just because that's sort of my thought process right now. So how again do you think outside of what factors do you think about your home make it truly unique from other homes where this wouldn't create a widespread precedent that pretty much eliminates the 6 foot requirement across the city for most houses?
Well, so I understand, about setting precedent, right? I guess I would come back and ask you, how many people are coming to you asking for zoning exceptions? Doesn't seem
Um,
there's a whole lot. I mean, I'm looking at all the
it-
fences around me and they're all been there for a while and
Mhm.
nobody seems to be, it doesn't seem to be a trend of everyone putting in higher fences. So
Sure.
I don't want to belabor the point. I mean, I think I've stated my case as best as I can. Um, so we've both done, I think, a fairly good job of stating kind of each person's points on either side. So, anything beyond that, I think I don't have a whole lot else to add.
Sure, I understand. And I mean, I understand that as a homeowner and, having a family safety is concerns are extremely important. I don't want to make light of those at all. Let me ask you this. Uh, have you considered any of the alternative security options and screening options that Kate has suggested? I think, when I do see some fence applications come through here, they do have more of an anti-theft design to them that makes them harder to scale. And I have seen some pretty successful buffering with some fast-growing arborvitaes and other types of landscaping that can help provide additional shielding and buffering. Have you looked into any of those things?
It's kind of funny you mention that because particularly on the east side of the house, next to the old abandoned house, um, I cleared out a bunch of honeysuckle and, scrub with the intention of planting a row of arborvitaes. And in talking to my neighbors directly behind me, they had tried something similar and they all had died. There just wasn't enough light back there. So, I'm, I don't know, thinking about tall grasses maybe, but I'm not, there's just not a lot of light. So on the landscaping thing, I'm limited in what I could do there.
Okay.
I'm gonna go and look at, thinking of having like spiky stuff on a fence. I don't know. I'll look at it. Maybe there's something out there that is attractive. It just kind of seems off. My initial reaction was, I don't know about that, but I'll take a look. I mean,
Mhm.
that's something to think about for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, One thing I would say, you said you needed up to a couple of weeks to make a decision, and I respect you have a lot going on. But the contractor, he's done work for me before. I have a rental in my previous house. And I got a 20% discount for doing it in the winter. And we didn't anticipate that this process would take as long as it has. So he's really wanting to get started or not. I mean, if
Yeah.
he may just be pressure washing and restaining that fence. We may be replacing it. I'm not quite sure, but I do
Yeah.
want to proceed as early as possible. So
Sure.
not trying to rush you, but I'm trying to rush you.
No, yeah, yeah. No, I totally understand that concern. And I hear it frequently. Um, So, typically what I'll do after these hearings is I'll go back and review all of the evidence. And I'll do a site visit. And so I think I'd like to do that in this case, the site visit that is in this case, and make sure I get a feel for what it's like on the ground and some of the issues you discussed on the ground. And then after reviewing all of that, I will then write up a decision, and then as soon as that decision is complete, I'll send it out to you, which will include my reasoning and either the approval or denial. Just trying to think if if I let you know what the decision, whether it was approved or denied prior to writing the decision, if that would save much time. I don't think that it would. Let me say this. It will not be beyond 2 weeks, and I'll do everything I can to get it to you within the next week.
Okay,
Okay. I appreciate, and I've made exceptions in the past for folks that have financial timelines that are going to impact the project. So that's not an unusual request, and I'm happy to do that. So I'll do everything I can to get it to you in the next week. If for any reason I don't get it to you in the next week, I'll email you, let you know where I'm at, and give you an updated timeline.
all right, I appreciate that.
Sure, no problem. Anything else you want to say before, in closing or otherwise, before we adjourn here today?
No, just appreciate you all in your investment in time. So thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Richardson. Appreciate your time and testimony as well. I think we will leave it at that. As soon as I have that decision complete, I'll email it to you. You'll have it just moments after I'm finished. If you have any questions in the meantime, feel free to reach out. Otherwise,